Hi, I am Jenna.
And I am Rochelle.
And we were both raised in fundamentalist groups and are here to share our religious deconstruction with you. Okay, you go.
All right, welcome back, haters.
It's so true. It's so true.
Yo, I did not think we were gonna get as much hate as we did for literally sharing our own opinions and experiences.
I mean, we've gotten a little bit of hate every episode, I feel like, but this last one, it just set people off.
Yeah, it's set, and I feel like it's the Christians that it set off, so it's interesting.
It's interesting.
Because I feel like the one thing that Christians always say about, like, quote, gay people, as they, like, categorize everyone that is queer as gay, is like, oh, they just need Jesus. It's like, yeah,
that's always a problem.
You're definitely pulling me close to him by hating on every single thing that I do. Like, better way to do it.
This is not helping the situation.
I'm reading the comments and I'm like, proving my point.
Oh my gosh, I swear. And okay, so I know we just came in hot and heavy here. But a little bit of backstory. First of all, if you're new here, I am Jenna.
And I am Rochelle.
And we start every episode by disclaiming that this is a deconstruction channel, a religious deconstruction, aka neither of us are in the faith.
AKA, don't be surprised when you hear things that you as a Christian do not agree with.
Exactly. So our last episode that aired, there's been probably a couple in between that have gone up. But the last episode that aired was our coming out episode / like our LGBTQ in the church episode. And it got more hate comments than... That's it. That's all we got was hate comments.
It was crazy. Like, I think my favorite comment was there's like someone who was like, hell is I hear hell is hot these days.
I heard that.
I'm like, ma'am, I am a black queer woman who lives in Texas. Like,
I'm already there.
Land of the conservatives. Like, this is it. This is a hell. This is my hell, ma'am.
Oh my gosh. I am going to see if I can find, because I took a couple of screenshots. I should have pulled it up already. Okay, here it is. So let's read this one. But could we be that surprised that comment came from Capitalism Enforced?
Should not be surprised at all.
The hell is hot. I hear hell is hot these days of the year. That's what they wrote.
I literally burst out laughing.
I busted out laughing with a lot of these. So one of them I was kind of confused on, but okay, Lord Dragonia says, and take them and confuse them and take them to, I don't even know what. So if you repent and establish the righteousness and the righteousness of the righteousness.
I think people commented too, like, I agree. I'm like, girl, explain that.
Explain the righteousness.
Maybe I agree, but I don't understand what he's saying.
Righteousness and the righteousness of the righteousness. Right, hear the words of God. Okay. And then, okay, you guys can say a lot of things. Don't fucking come for my babies. Because that was the thing, only ones that actually pissed me off, where I was like, don't fucking talk to me about my kids.
Where it's like, teach your kids.
Well, yeah, because we talked about what are we going to teach our kids.
Yeah.
And I think there's definitely in response to that. But it says, if you're happy with your child living a certain lifestyle, and that lifestyle is called an abomination before God, what are you doing? What are you doing going to God with? I don't know what that means. You are wishing to create sodomy as a normal thing. First of all, excuse me, ma'am, you're not even with men. I mean, yes, your husband. But I mean, do they even know what sodomy is?
I think there's also a lot of confusion.
I think they don't know what sodomy is. Let me help you here. That's something up the ass, okay? We were talking about women last time. So I just think that it kind of cracked me up. But I was like, sodomy? Did you listen? What does God think? Repent and turn to Jesus Christ. If you are going to a church that affirms sodomite as the normal, you are on your way to hell.
It's like, and you're judging me, you're coming with me, sir.
Like, see you there, bitch. You need a ride? Says, coming out. Well, there's another thing. That means you rejected God's standard. Okay.
What makes these people think that, like, hey,
I'm sorry.
Is this their way of, like, witnessing?
There's no way.
Is this their way of, like, going, because according to them, the Bible says go out into the world and spread the word. Is this them spreading the word, or is this them spreading some hate? Because it's feeling like I'm getting hate.
I feel I'm getting hate vibes. Like I definitely am, and it makes me laugh. Honestly, most of them just made me laugh. And I know you said you saw one was like a puke emoji.
Yeah, it was literally like a vomit emoji, and I was like, oh, exactly how I feel about you.
Oh my god. And then I know I saw several that was like, it's the end of times and stuff. I really need someone to explain to me though, what is so like a sign of the times with gay? Like a woman loving a woman, or a man loving a man, or any gender loving any gender. How does that affect the world?
I think because like in the Bible, because I think that Christians believe that homosexuality is like the greatest sin, probably even above like murder. Because I read this article, and I need to find it so we can link it, that was talking about like Jeffrey Dahmer, and it was like they were comparing him to like someone that was queer, and saying that like God can forgive Jeffrey Dahmer but not the person that was queer. I need to find the article and see if we can like link it.
I think
because it was so
wasn't
weird.
He gay? I thought Jeffrey Dahmer was gay.
No, he was, but they were talking more about like the murders and things.
Absolutely. And you know, I can tell you exactly why, because I've heard it too. Is that murder is like an action, right? Once you've murdered, you've been murdered. But being gay is a willfully committing a lifestyle of sin. Yeah. And so there was like a difference between telling a lie and being a liar. Yeah. Like, or, and it's that choosing, it's like the drug addict and active addiction is, living this lifestyle.
That's what I always heard. Like a queer person is affecting your life.
I don't understand how a queer person is a lifestyle. Like,
seriously.
Right? That's not
because I feel like all the not.
And
not
I don't mean that in a you know what I mean. I mean that it shouldn't be a like. It should be just being a human.
Exactly. I feel like considering all the things that I've experienced in my life, as far as like the negative aspects of it, like would I willfully choose this lifestyle for myself? Probably not. If I had a choice, I would just be like a traditional, like normal, straight person, because that at this point in my life, I wouldn't want that. But at the point of growing up, when I was younger,
like I don't want this.
If I could choose it, I would have chosen not to have this.
You said it just now in your thing before. You said a normal straight person, and that is the problem. Not with you, but it's how we were raised. Yeah. That being straight is normal. Being queer, gay, whatever you want to identify with is abnormal. Yeah. And so and that's where we got to this place of that's not okay. Yeah. You know what I mean? And that's where I'm saying, like, why is it even a lifestyle? It should just be a lifestyle.
Like, this is just the same thing as being straight. Like, you shouldn't have to come out or any of that. But I mean, that's the time that we live in. It's good that it's more accepting now for like the queer kids that are coming up. Like, glad for them.
I saw this. There was some show. I think it was the Mindy Project. I can't remember, but it was it was an adult talking to like a teenager, and some comment was made about like being gay, and they're like, "Are you kidding?" They're like, "It's more popular to be gay than not gay." Like, anyways, I don't know why that just made me think of that, but So I think that it makes me laugh, like, but in a good way, because I'm like, I hope that that's true. Yeah. In the sense of that it's not, like you said, you wouldn't want Evie. Oh, I shouldn't say her name. Okay, let's pause right there and start again. Okay. You said last time you wouldn't want your daughter to even ever come out. Yeah. You would want her to just be like, "Hey, Mom, there's this girl I'm interested in."
And it just be normal.
Sarah. And it wouldn't be this whole like, Mom, I like girls. Like, it wouldn't be this whole thing.
Yeah, that would break my heart if she did that, because I would feel like she doesn't, like, I didn't do my job of, like, making her feel comfortable with being who she is.
Or being, or your house being, like, a safe space. Like, I think that's, like, one of the biggest things for me that I always push, like, with my husband and my girls is, like, I want our house to be, I used to use the term sanctuary, but I don't anymore. But I was like, I want our house to be like the safe space. Like, this is where it has to be okay to fall apart. Like, this is where it has to be okay to ask questions and not feel stupid. Like, this is where those things have to be okay.
Yeah.
Otherwise, we aren't going to have the relationship or set our children up for success in the way that I would like to.
Yeah.
And I feel that way about everything, not even just gender or sexuality, but that's just something that I think starts at home, because I know I didn't have that at home, and know you didn't, so that's something important to me.
Yeah, me too. I want to make sure that not only her, but like anyone who walks through my doors feels comfortable and safe and like protected in my home.
Absolutely. And that this segues us into our topic, which is essentially like no hate like Christian love.
Love in quotations, right. Christian love.
Christian quote love. But I think that even ties into kind of what we were just talking about, like the homes. Like the homes of where you're raised, because that has such an influence on how you treat people and think people is like how you were raised and how people were treated and thought about in your home. It's much more, I think, than a Sunday sermon, because these are like deep rooted issues beyond that.
Yeah.
At least that's how I see it. I mean, what do you think?
Yeah, no, I agree. I think that, growing up, like, definitely I grew up in obviously a Christian home, but I think that it was a safe space for a lot of my friends. Whenever we'd hang out, they'd love to come over to our house, because they like to like hang out with my parents and stuff. Yeah. And I appreciate like that piece of it. I obviously didn't have any like queer friends at the time or anything like that, but I don't think that they would have. I know that they wouldn't have been like welcome into my home, because I had a couple friends that were like openly gay, that I just would never bring over. Like I didn't let them come over.
That's so sad.
Yeah, just because I don't think that my parents would have said anything like intentionally disrespectful, but when it comes to that, they are pretty ignorant, like as far as like what's acceptable to say, what's not acceptable. So I just like definitely would not bring my
same.
Even to this day, like I be cautious about bringing someone around him.
I mean, I told you about that story with my friend. I'm like, me and his husband were having breakfast, and wait, how does he have I'm like, oh my God, like, what if you said that in front of like an actual human?
Exactly.
Like, not just me.
I would cringe.
I'd just be like, oh my God, please don't hate me. I don't think like this. So what, on the topic of love, I mean, obviously that's a very big subject in any sect of Christianity. I would venture to say that if you asked a Christian what's at the root of the religion, aside from Jesus, they would say
love. Yeah, because a lot of their church slogans will say something about Jesus and then about loving people, or love God's people, or love all, or something along those lines.
Yes.
And I think that is, I feel like our stories of our upbringing is proof that like that is just a show. Yeah. Like it's just something that they say because it's something that they should do.
Right.
But I don't think that they fully live by like love people, because when you love someone, you don't leave hurtful comments on their videos. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Like, like because they have a difference of opinion than you or live a different lifestyle, at the end of the day, it doesn't say like love Christian people. Like,
right.
Just love the people.
Love people. And I think like love is one of our most basic needs too. And so I think that it's also almost used as a like ever moving goalpost. Like if I just do this, I will get more love.
Yeah.
Like, cause you feel like you have this connection, with God or with Jesus or, whatever. And you feel like if you do X, Y, or Z, you get more love. Like you're closer to that love, because we are constantly saying God is love, right?
Yeah.
So that's definitely like a staple in the church. We're saying like he is love, and you do these things to get closer to him. So then if you think about it, like you're essentially saying to people, act correctly to get love.
Yeah.
It's a behavior modification using love as what, you know, the motivator. Yes. I mean, right?
Yeah. And I feel like that's probably one of the biggest things that I've learned on this journey is that I feel like the love that I was taught that like God has for me is not the love that he has for me. Mm-hmm. Like, I feel like I was taught of a conditional love.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yes.
But I feel like he loves me right where I'm at, like at any stage of my life. And this is what I believe. Mm-hmm. I believe that he loves me at any point of my life, no matter what I'm going through or what I'm in or anything of the sort. But I feel like the love that I was taught that like he had for us was conditional upon like, are you going to do good? Are you going to, you know, follow these commandments? Are you going to do, but I feel like all those things were interpretations, was like someone else's interpretation of the Bible. You know what I mean?
I get what you're saying.
I don't think that that's the love that he has for me. I feel like the love he has for me like surpasses all of like the things that I could be doing or not doing. But I also just like don't believe like Bible.
Yeah.
You know?
And just in case you missed our last episode, we did do an update of like where we stand currently, and just like a quick synopsis of that is I'll say for myself and you can say for yours, but is essentially like I don't know, and I'm okay that I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't believe in the Bible. I believe it as a collection of historical documents, not an inerrant word of God.
Yeah.
So that's what I do know. I know I don't believe in the Bible, but I'm still like I'm okay not knowing the rest.
Yeah. I don't know. It's interesting because especially in the Pentecostal church, they'll say like the church is the hospital for the spiritually and emotionally sick. Mm-hmm. And yet the church is the place where a lot of people have experienced a lot of hate and a lot of hurt.
Right.
And that's supposed to be like the safe space, you know?
Right.
And that's like tarnished. And I don't think that that's like, obviously it's not like any one person's fault. I think as a collection, like the church is tarnished.
Yeah, I agree.
And I don't think that, I think if love was the root of everything that they were doing in the church, then the outcome would be a lot different.
I agree. And I think one of the things about love in particular with the church is I've told you before, you know, a lot of things changed for me when I had kids. A lot of things changed in me looking at my own childhood and realizing like how many things were not okay or were not right. But one of the other things is it also it started to change my viewpoint on God. And a lot of that's because I love my kids so fucking much. They could be Jeffrey Dahmer and I would still be visiting them in jail.
Yeah, same.
Would I say that they don't deserve to be in jail? No, I'm not saying that. But
the love won't change.
My love for them would not change. I would be there writing them. I would be there. And would I agree with what they did? Not necessarily, but I would never withhold myself or my love from my kids for any reason.
Yeah.
And it just doesn't matter what it is or what they do. And so hypothetically, we have this more perfect than me being that is the creation of love, created us on a planet, and then creates a series of punishments and separations from them.
Yeah.
That is not love. That is abuse.
Yeah.
That's not kindness. That's evil.
Yeah.
And I just can't, when it's just so many things fractured for me when I had kids, and not necessarily in a bad way, but when I say fractured, I mean like you have this one view and that view shatters.
Yeah, definitely.
And that a lot of the fracture before it shattered completely was me having kids and having this love that is not computing with how I was raised.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think like if I was in the church and I was hearing these harmful things like that I know are not right or that I'm questioning, like I'm not going to continue to subject my child to that. That's the part that I struggle with sometimes is like, if you knew that this was like, if you saw all these things happening and you know all these things are bad things, why did you continue to be a part of this? Because there's a lot of people, I know of 4 people my age that grew up in the same church as me that are deconstructing and that have walked away from the faith. And of course the church looks at them as like they've backslid or they have come up into, they've gotten mixed up into son. Like, exactly.
Jeez, yeah.
But it's like, at some point you have to realize like, maybe we're not wrong. Like not saying that we're right, but maybe we're just not wrong. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But it's it's sad to see people still, it hurts me to see people still deep into it. I still see my family in it, and I see them hurt by so many things that happens in the church, but they just continue to go back.
Yeah.
And it's like that friend that you have that like is going to hurt you, and you know they're going to hurt you, you know they're going to do this, but you can't stop going back to them. And it's like, why are you doing that? Like, why, what about this has such a chokehold on you that you can't remove yourself from it? Like, that's not love.
That's not.
That's manipulation. If this was a boyfriend, somebody would be telling you that he is emotionally abusing you.
That's what I am saying. That the religion is not love. It is abuse.
Yeah.
That's just, there's no other way to put it.
I feel like the relationship is what is missing. And I feel like Christians will say all the time, especially Pentecostals, like, I can't help you get to heaven. Okay, well then don't hurt me either. Let me take my own journey. If you can't help me, then my going to heaven is not going to affect you. Right. So why are you so pressed, and why are you so angry about something that I'm doing in my life? Yeah. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and I don't know. I don't know that I even know that they know.
Yeah, that's the thing. They have I feel like people that are still deep into like the Pentecostal religion, I can speak to that specifically. Like, for you to think that this is like not a cult, or for you to know it's a cult and be okay with it, like, you are sick. Yeah. You are sick to continue to give money to this organization, to be a part of it, and like, and you see all of these things, and you're forcing your kids to go, like, you're sick.
Yeah. I don't understand. And, you know, you could be sick in one of two ways. One, you could be sick like you're not a great person, but you could also just be sick from being completely mentally, I don't know what the word is, I'm looking for this, like, blinded by this.
Yeah. Emotional manipulation is so
but a lot
prevalent.
of that has to do with love. And it's just like, think of how many songs in church are about love. Probably 75% of them at least. And the thing is it's just people sing so passionately about these things, like, your love is big, your love is wild, your love is, like, people sing these things and are bawling their eyes out over these songs. And I'm like, well, why is that? Okay, some of the musicality has to do with that. There are ways to manipulate people's feelings and emotions. I mean, otherwise there would be no scores in movies, right? Yeah. So it can definitely, move you emotionally, but you can have the same words sung in the same like melody of it, and different ones will have like these very like visceral reactions to it almost. You know what I mean? And it's because I think at least that because we have such this need and desire to be loved. And so we're sitting there like, and it's almost like it breaks my heart even more just like thinking about like all these people like singing and crying over essentially wanting to be loved. And all we're doing in response is making the problem worse and then having them go and perpetuate the same problem.
Yeah, literally.
So like, what do you think you were taught about love? Like, were you ever like feel like you were taught something specifically about it?
So I really wasn't. I remember hearing in church like that you should love everyone, and they'll say a lot that they like to talk a lot about like the prostitutes in the Bible. Jesus loved them just as much. Jesus loved them. But like, I never saw an example of that. I will say that I was taught about love, but I never saw a real example. Like, as far as Christianity goes, I never saw a real example of the love through the church. Maybe a couple of times during like certain outreaches and things. But as I got older, I realized that those were just to raise money. Right. You know? Yeah. So it's like, I don't think that I saw a pure example of love in the church at all. In my house, I did, because my parents would they would like hand out things to the poor or like collect things for the neighborhood. Like, my parents are really big on like outreach and stuff and trying to like help the neighborhood. And,
your parents are great.
And stuff like that. But as far as the church goes, like, they would try to do that with the church, and the church wouldn't like allow them. I know at one point we had like food storage in the church. It was like a whole room that was like full of food, and we were getting it from like food banks and things to give it away. Well, not food banks, but like when churches give away groceries and stuff, like the members would go collect it and we'd put it in there. And it was supposed to be for the neighborhood, and they refused to give the food out. Like literally they just would not give it out. Like if we went in there to get something, like one time I got peanut butter out of there and they made a big, huge thing about the fact that I stole peanut butter from the church pantry.
So
and I
who
was
did
like,
the food go to?
It expired. I'm not kidding. Like 90% of the food expired and they had to get rid of it because they were hoarding it in the church.
For no reason?
For no reason. It's stuff like that. Like those are the examples of things that I saw. Like with good intentions of like, oh, we're going to make this food bank. We're going to make this food storage. Donate all your food. Do this and this. And then we get it all and they either keep it for themselves, like the first family, keep it for themselves, or would rather just let it sit in there and expire before they give it out to the people who actually would need it.
That's awful.
Yeah. And it's just like, that's the kind of like example of quote love that I saw. You know what I mean?
And so, I mean, I know a term that I always grew up hearing was like, hate the sin, not the sinner.
Yeah.
I mean, okay, that's a really common one that I've heard. But like, since leaving the church, I sit there and go, that means you were sitting there judging what their sins were or what your perceived sins were.
Perceived sins.
To even say like, oh, I love you anyways. Like, I'm like, but that means you're already being just judged. Like, why do we have any of that? Like
why do you, and one thing that I've like heard said a lot in the Pentecostal church is like that the Bible says the saints will judge the world. So I'm a saint, and so I get to make these judgments calls. And it's
okay,
like,
I have not heard that one.
I don't think that that's like, no, you don't, because let me judge you. But like, we're not talking about us. We're talking about them, you know. And it's just sad, and I don't want like, I wouldn't want my kid exposed to that.
Yeah.
And back to your point of like I don't know how like my parents saw these things happening and would continue to let us be exposed to things like this. Of course, you can't protect your kids from everything,
right?
But what I can protect my daughter from, I'm going to protect her from.
Right. Exactly. No, I totally get that. And I think it's so crazy to like look back at things that I thought made sense at one time and then go like objectively, that makes no sense.
Yeah.
You know,
feels like I lost a lot of experiences in life due to a lot of like lies that I believed from the church.
Yeah. Agree. Exactly. Let's see. I'm trying to think if there's anything else specifically. Oh, we always told like you're supposed to love people like where they're at,
and that's the last thing they want to do.
They don't do that, so I'm like, I don't know why.
And maybe I feel like maybe our views of the church are definitely like, I mean, I wouldn't say it's one-sided because I feel like we spent a lot of years in a couple of different churches and experienced a lot of the same things. And I'm not even like calling for the church to be perfect, you know, because that's kind of an argument that I've had with my mom a little bit. Like, well, nobody's perfect. Like, no, I'm not calling for anyone to be perfect. What I think is necessary is like for you to admit that like you're not perfect, and also I know you're not either, and just let me live my lifestyle how I feel comfortable. Like, don't shun me
or
every 5 seconds.
Or say that there's something wrong with something that's not what you're doing.
It's like, no, it's not wrong. It's just not what you want to do. Maybe I think what you're doing is wrong, but I'm going to let you live your life.
Right.
Do your thing. Go off, girl.
Yeah. I don't quite understand that either. I also don't understand now as I'm like trying to remember what I thought at the moment. And I think a lot of this goes back to what we talked about, emotional manipulation, and it honestly being like cult tactics, right?
Yeah.
So one of the things of the BITE model, which I'm not going to go into details, but essentially there's other videos that know it way better than me. So one of the things that's kind of a bedrock of Christianity is an us versus them mentality, which is also like an indicator of a cult, which I think is interesting. But like even in the Bible, right? It's like the world or like sinners and saints, and it's two different segregated groups.
Yeah.
And I think that aids to your lifestyle, like just not yours in particular. I just mean someone else's lifestyle that they live in their own home somehow is a threat to yours.
Which it's not.
It's not.
Yeah, but the thought process is that it is.
Yes, I think that's exactly it. And then somehow someone living differently than you are or not believing exactly like you do is somehow going to tell you can't believe what you believe.
Yeah.
But I'm like, that's not freedom though.
It's definitely not freedom.
And I think that's the thing. I'm just like, that's not, religious freedom is not having a Christian nation. That's not religiously free.
Yeah.
That's a Christian, like, that's a, what's it called? A theocracy. There we go. Theocracy. So I'm like, that's a theocracy. It's not a democracy. So I don't understand where this comes from. Maybe Mr. Capitalism. I know first.
Mr. Capitalism, leave a comment down below.
Let me know.
And let us know.
Let me know. Are you for theocracy? I mean,
I'm sure they are. Definitely. Absolutely.
There's people that are openly for communism. Like, if that's what you're for, it is a type of government. Yeah. You know?
I just like, I think not that I would want them to like change their lifestyle. I think I just want my, like, I think probably the way that my parents and my family and probably people in the church think about us, like they quote, don't want us to be lost and just want, and that's what I want for them. Like, I want them to be happy and I want them to live a lifestyle that they're comfortable with. Cause they will Christians will openly say like, this is not supposed to be easy. Mm-hmm. Like if being a Christian was easy, everybody would do it. And it's like, I don't know, like, I don't think it's supposed to be hard. You know what I mean? The love that I feel like they explain that God has for us
shouldn't be hard
to get.
I agree.
You know what I mean? And yet it seems like every single thing about Christianity is based around like wanting God's love and getting God's love and earning it. Mm-hmm. And doing enough things to be able to like have it. But it's like, I think it's freely given to us regardless of what, but that's my opinion. I don't know. I feel like I have to clarify that now.
Talk to me in 3 months. You never know. No, I totally hear what you're saying. And I think that's exactly right. Even though the words would be like, there's nothing you can do to like earn God's love. Like it's just,
but you're supposed to just try your whole life.
But you have to repent. You have to this, you have this, or he'll separate you forever.
Yeah.
You're like, that's not love. That's abuse. And that is behavioral modification. It just doesn't make any sense to me. But again, I think it goes back to people continuing to perpetuate this idea and this us versus them, and that their lifestyle's against mine. Again, like people don't learn that with just one day a week on a Sunday. Obviously they're influenced by that, but ultimately it happens at home. Yeah. Right. And these ideas are like enforced at home or reinforced at home, and that's how it perpetuates. And I know there's like a scripture that says like train up a child in the way he will go, and when he's older he won't depart from it, or something. Yeah. Something like that. It's said so much I at least generally know what it says. And but I think that actually is true in a way. And it's the same reason you typically see generations of people that are, all my family is Catholic, or all my family is Protestant, or whatever, or Muslim or Buddhist, or it's typically through a family, because you are right. And not in a religious sense, but just in a human sense, like how you're raised is going to feel most normal and natural to you. Yeah. And so I think you do have less people that stray from how they were taught. Now they might go and like explore, but it's kind of the same concept of like the Amish. You know how they have what's it called, Romspringa or something like that, where they leave.
Their like their traditional lifestyle and live. Yeah,
they can go out and do that, and they were saying it's like an insane amount, like 97% return back home. Yeah. To Amish culture, and it goes back to like that's how you were raised. That's what you're comfortable. Conditioned. Yeah. Yeah, and I think that's how we keep having this.
Yeah, I remember like the friend that we both like shared that passed away, having a conversation with her one time about religion. And she is someone who's like, she was a pastor's wife, like very deep in the church, like went on missions, like very much so. But she told me like, all I want to do is just love people. She's like, that's all I want to do. Because we were like having a conversation about religion, and she's like, I don't care about any of that. She's like, I just want to love people. And she's like, I just want to show them God's love by loving them where they're at. And like, absolutely, like, definitely, like, she did that in her life. Yes. Like through and through. Yes. But I feel like that's probably like a Christian mindset. Like that's what I feel like a lot of Christians like want or say that they do, but they don't, you know? And just like, I don't know, it definitely like spoke to me just like how, as purely as she loved people, regardless of like who they were or like anything. I feel like that is like, if you're going to call yourself a Christian, like that's the basis right there, you know?
I would agree, because I think of people that like practice what they preach, she's probably one of the only examples of people I have that I think actually believed what she said and did what she said.
Yeah, exactly.
So, and that's rare.
And knowing the things that she went through in her life, as short as it was, like she had every reason to not. Yeah. Every reason to not.
Yeah.
And I think she used, like for her point, like she used those reasons to love people the way that she did, because she knew what people went through. She knew the horrible things that happened to her.
Right.
And I think she always we would talk about how she would always like think like, if they went through what I went through, like, I don't know how they made it through. And that's how she would love people. And I feel like that's definitely like the Christian, quote, Christian life that a lot of people say that they lead, but they don't necessarily do. But
right. And I mean, this same friend was like undercover in the red light district in Thailand, literally rescuing people.
Yeah.
So I'm just like, you know, but that's rare. How many people are out there doing that? No, she's the only one I've ever known in my lifetime.
Yeah, definitely.
So, and I've been very much in the church. It's just
not to say there's not more, but
no,
just
there,
in my
there
experience, very rare.
But I would venture to say that, say religion did not exist, she would have been that type of person anyways.
Oh, absolutely. I don't think like, because she didn't grow up in the church.
Right.
She got in the church as like a later in life teenager, you know? But I think that's just who she was to her core.
Yeah. And that's what I'm trying to say, is that like, it kind of like, you can have great people and be amazing and show people love without religion.
Yeah,
too.
I agree with that.
There's plenty of goodness in the world that isn't tied to a deity.
Yeah, I remember hearing like one of the ladies in church, like, do you remember back when Oprah was like giving away cars and stuff? You get a car, right?
Yeah.
I remember her saying, "Oh, it's so sad that she does all this good work, but she's still going to hell." And they would make comments like that fairly often, especially about people.
Oprah's even openly Christian, isn't she?
But especially about people like in the media that like have a lot of money and stuff like that, and like do a lot of good deeds in that way. They would say, "Oh, it's so sad that like they're doing all these good things and they're still going to hell because they lack salvation." And it's like, how do you even know? You just assume based off of like, because she's wearing pants and in your religion, wearing pants is a sin.
Yeah.
So now this person's a sinner going to hell because they have on pants. You don't, like, that's your religion, you know?
Right. Yeah. I mean, I don't understand that either. And I'm like, how are we determining who is this?
Like, why are we the ones?
And if you really believe the Bible, if you really believe these things, why do scriptures like, no one knows like the heart of man except for God? Like, why are those scriptures don't apply?
Yeah.
Like,
very like picking and choosing.
Yeah, exactly. I'm like, it doesn't make any sense. And the thing is there's no way for you to believe all of the Bible. And so I think that's why they have to cherry pick.
Yeah, because it's like one line will be like, "Thou shalt not lie," and they're like, "Don't tell a lie," but the next line should be like, "Don't eat pork," but it's like, "Don't eat pork if you don't want to." You know what I mean?
Well,
it's like, that's not how it works.
I don't even mean just that. I mean, there's no way to believe the whole Bible just based on contradictions alone.
Yeah.
Like, I'm saying it's literally impossible, because if you believe this verse, you can't believe this verse if you believe that, you know, vice versa.
It contradicts itself.
Exactly. So I'm like, there's no way to believe the whole thing. So they fixate on,
like, we only go by the New Testament or the Old Testament or this book or that book.
And really, if you look at it, it seems like all of these rules and regulations really come more down to the culture at the time that these documents were written, and not actually anything to do with a religion. So, I mean, if you look at the way women are treated and looked at, or even the skirt thing, or the not cutting your hair or covering your hair is in there as well, which is why, you know, nuns do, and so do Muslim women. You know, some of them wear hijab, and it's, what is it? Habit, I think, for nuns, right? I think that's what it's called.
Yeah.
Habit. Anyways, the whole point is, all of these things that are innately religious just come from a different time in history. I feel like, even down to like homosexuality and things like that, the way that they were looked at the time. It just, I don't know. It just doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, I know. I completely understand what you're saying.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't get it. I definitely got off on a tangent, but I just don't make it make sense. Somebody.
Yeah, but I can give you like the Christian answer of like, you don't need to figure out all the answers. Just trust blindly.
Yeah.
Like, that's where I have an issue with the blind trust.
Yes. This is not a team building exercise. I am not falling backwards with my eyes closed.
No, heck no.
So because at one point I genuinely believed like this is love. Yeah. What I was doing, what I was saying, what I was practicing. So at what point did that change for you?
I think when I started deconstructing, is when I realized that like a lot of these things aren't done out of love or like questioning. I think that a big part of my deconstruction is questioning the love that God has for me, as it relates to like how it was presented to me as a child, right? Okay. So very like emotionally manipulated, like do this and he'll love you, don't do that, and if you do that he won't love you, And so like basing a lot of my decisions off of that, like I need his love. If I lose his love, like I'll have nothing else, And as I got older, realizing that that's not necessarily the case, and that the love that I was taught that he has for me is not the love that he has for me. And understanding what that means, I feel like that was my first point of like as soon as when I started deconstruction was my point of like, that love that I was taught, that's not real. As I was like learning for myself and finding out for myself and interpreting things like on my own interpretation and trying to separate like the church's influence and like this is what I feel and this is like what I think is right. That's when I started realizing that like that's not the love that we're supposed to have for each other. That's not the love that we want to exemplify.
That's interesting. So what didn't really change for you until you actually started looking at everything?
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay. So before that, that happened recently, right? I mean, in the last, a year maybe?
Probably the last year. Yeah.
Okay. So say 2 years ago, would you have still been able to say like, this is love?
Yeah. I thought that was love.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, that's interesting. So for me, honestly, like I said earlier, a lot of things in my whole life really fractured when I had kids. And one of the first ones was about love. So this was like before I even started questioning my faith. Because that was 8 years ago when I had a kid. Oh my God, almost 9. Anyways, almost 9 years ago when I had my first child. And that's when a lot of things fractured for me, but specifically it really started around love, and it really started around parental love. And I look back on my childhood, and it was very the love in my household was very similar to Christian love. It was very conditional and very behavior modification. Act like I want you to act, do what I want you to do. And that's how you gain love. Yeah. And so I started, that was, I think the first thing was the parental love was the first thing that fractured for me. And then, realizing, in my, I'm not going to go into details, but, in my younger years, essentially, had a lot of like neglect and things, but that was also my relationship with God. Like if I wasn't doing these things, or if I was in this place or thinking these things, I felt neglected by God, and you know what I mean? And then I did all of these performative things, and then it's like I felt closer to God, or whatever. And so it actually started for me on the parental love, and seeing like, okay, after having my own kids, like, okay, how I was raised is not love, it's abuse. Yeah. And, I do love my parents and all, but if we're calling a spade, my childhood was abusive. And but so is the church's love. And so it's just, so definitely started parentally, realizing this is not what love was supposed to look like. Yeah. And then kind of started to bleed over to the church and my relationship with God. It started to bleed over there, saying like, it doesn't make sense why we're saying this about this person. Yeah. And so it really started to fracture even before, like I told you about the the trans person we had, who has now since detransitioned. So I don't even know how to honestly talk. I don't no idea which pronouns or anything to use because of that. But they were there, and no one would refer to them as the pronouns that they had chosen for themselves or the name that they had chosen for themselves. And no one would use those, but I was the only one that did.
Yeah.
Even behind their backs, I still used what they had verbally said that they preferred. And, so even things like that that was after I had my first child. And so it was like, even those things, that's where it started to kind of bleed over into the church, saying like, something is wrong with the love here too, and how we treat people, because I was working at a church at that point. And even then I was going, something's not right here. Like, this doesn't, like, why aren't we respecting when someone is specifically asking us? Like, how's that going to do? Yeah. Or saying, maybe saying she, her when she's in session, and then he, him when they're not there.
Yeah.
I'm like, so you're treating someone to their face much differently than you're treating someone behind their back, when we're constantly saying we shouldn't be doing it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
so it's just
I know what you mean.
It was so those things definitely bled over, but I think it started with having kids.
Yeah. I mean, I can definitely see why. Because I just think that the love that I have for my daughter is like unconditional, regardless of what. And I think that my parents loved me unconditionally, but I didn't feel that growing up at home or in the church.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think now my parents' view has changed a little bit, not view, but their treatment, I guess, a little bit differently. But I mean, it was definitely conditional when I was growing up. So I don't know, not that great. I mean, like I said, I love my parents, but not the greatest either. So maybe not. Do not recommend.
1 out of 5 stars.
1 out of 5 stars. So, how would you characterize, I guess, your current experience? I mean, you touched on that a little bit, but like, is there anything else that you would say, like, how do you talk to maybe your daughter about it, or do you?
Yeah, no, I do. So sometimes she'll say like, Mommy, I love you so much. And then she'll be like, I don't know why.
Love it.
And I'm like, yeah.
Self-awareness.
And I just tell her like, it's because you have no choice but to love Mommy.
I love it.
But as far as like, I think like as far as like love in the church, like we haven't really gotten there, because like I do let her go still sometimes, but she hasn't started like asking a lot of questions about a lot of things. But I will say that when I go with her and I'm there with her, it's a lot better. And I think because I've been like, I mean, we talk a lot on here, just about the things that happen in the church that I don't like. But I've been pretty vocal, like, to my family about those things. And I'm like, these things are not okay. And I think because of that, they're starting to have a different, like, outlook. Not necessarily to think that, like, oh, everything's wrong, but they're being more careful. And so I feel comfortable in, like, if something happened at the church and my daughter was there and I wasn't there somehow, like, I feel comfortable that my mom would, like, get her out of there or just, like, not let her be a part. So she hasn't really started asking anything about that. But as far as just like love goes, I just teach her, like, you have to love everyone. Like, if someone looks different than you, it doesn't matter. Like, sometimes she'll point people out in the store that look different than her. And she'll say, why do they have that? And I'm like, well, they just do. It's okay. Yeah. We saw like a man, like someone that was like male presenting, but he had a dress on. And she's like, Mommy, why does that boy have on a dress? And I said, because he wants to.
Yeah.
And that's just like what I left it at. And she was just like, okay. And I think if I respond to her in that way, then she won't think like
it's a big deal.
Obviously, she doesn't see those things every day, all day. But when she does see them and she notices them, like, I feel like it's my job to tell her, like, it's okay that they're doing that because that's them. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so that's what I try to teach her. Like, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
We don't get an opinion on what they're doing,
I'm like the exact same way with because my girls are still young. My oldest is 8, and they'll do the same. Yeah, I think that's just natural to be like, what's, if you've never seen, whatever it is, X, Y, or Z, or maybe it's your first time seeing someone in a wheelchair, or, whatever. Kids are going to ask questions. And, but I kind of take that same approach. I'm like, same thing, like, oh, because they want to, or because they think it looks good, or they, whatever.
Yeah.
And especially I know they asked me that the class that my oldest has, they do combined classes with the special needs classes. So they asked us, because it was the first year they were going to combine classes, and they were like, here's some great things you can talk to your kids about before we combine classes. And basically it was like one period or whatever, they all went together. And so she came home and asked me questions, because some of them were nonverbal. I think most of them were autistic, but I think they have like some with Down syndrome and stuff. But she asked, why do their eyes look different? Or why does this look different? Things that could potentially hurt someone's feelings in the moment, but talking about them at home and saying like, everybody looks different and that's okay. Like, we're all special and we're all unique. And, some people can't talk when they're born, or some people can't see when they're born, or, it's just because kids are curious. But teaching them about those things like, this just happens. Sometimes people are born this way or born that way. And as you have those conversations, I think it makes it easier to keep that dialogue going through older years.
I definitely agree with that.
So I loved that they combined classes, and I loved that I think it really taught them how to be like sweet and kind to anybody, no matter if they were, the same abilities that they have or not. And so I just loved that, and I think that's really important. But
I agree.
But so what do you think specifically, how do you feel about love towards other people? Like, not a romantic love, but just like a love for human beings.
Yeah. So like, what am I teaching my daughters?
No, I'm just saying, what do you think? Like, how do you feel about that, your interaction with people?
So I think that I'm not going to like sit here and say like, I love all people, because that's just not, if I'm honest, that's not the case. You know, I'm not the person that like will see someone sitting like on side of the road with the sign and like it tugs at my heartstrings, like, they're probably homeless. Like, I'm the opposite person, and that's just my natural nature. Sounds a little bitchy.
It's not.
I guess I'm kind of bitchy, but that's just like not my natural nature. Like, I have to actively work sometimes, I feel like, to think about people outside of my inner circle. So if you are like someone that I interact with like on a daily basis, and you feel my love, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But if you're a stranger, I don't have that like thing in me, that empathy or anything for a stranger, to care about them or to love them, even though like I don't know them. And I think that's like a lot of like base of Christianity, is loving everyone regardless.
Right.
If I'm honest, like I don't have that in me. I feel like I try to be kind to everyone that I come in contact with.
Same.
And I think we should like, quote, love your neighbor as yourself, but I just don't do that, if I'm honest.
I don't do that. I love me more.
and I feel like, for some reason, I feel bad even thinking that. Like, I don't love my neighbor, but it's like,
because we're taught selfishness is bad.
Yeah, but not to say like if their house was burning, like I wouldn't like try to help.
Right.
But like if my house was burning, like I'm definitely gonna run in there after my people. You know what I mean?
Yes.
But like I'm gonna hesitate. I'm gonna make sure like, that's a lot of blame.
I'm not gonna run into a burning building for a stranger.
Yeah, but I think the Christian thing is the idea that you would run into that burning building for any single person because they are
a human. Yeah.
I agree. I don't have that.
I don't either, in that I think selfishness kind of has a bad rap, if I'm being honest. Like,
it gets hate that it doesn't deserve.
Kind of like us.
Kind of like us.
I don't think that being selfish is always a bad thing. I think there's a difference also between being selfish and self-centered.
Yeah.
I think self-centered people think the world revolves around them. I don't think being selfish, like having your own best things at heart, I guess. Yeah. I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing, because I think a lot of saying being selfish is bad has caused a lot of mental illness. Like, if I'm being honest.
No, I can agree with that.
Like, self-care, you know what I mean? Those things are selfish.
And they're looked upon as like bad things.
Yes.
Like, and I've heard like people say, this new generation, all they care about is self-care.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, you know what? If you cared about self-care, maybe you wouldn't be worried about me caring about self-care.
Accurate. But I'm saying I think selfishness, because of Christianity, especially in where we are, it has a really bad rap, but I don't think being selfish is a bad thing. I look out for myself and I look out for my family first.
Yeah.
Like if I'm just like,
I do just too. I feel like most people do. Like they probably don't want to admit it, but
verbalize it.
Yeah.
I look out for number one first. Okay. And then, I'm like an inner circle person too. Like I've got my circle of people. But I do also agree. I do think it is extremely important to be kind to all humans. I also agree. I don't think I would use the term love. Like I love that dude I just passed at the grocery store. I don't love him. I don't fucking know him.
Like I don't wish harm on him, but like
exactly. I feel nothing.
I'm not gonna jump in front of a bullet.
No.
Matter of fact, I'm gonna take a punch.
Hiding.
I'm gonna get out of here.
Yeah. Exactly. Same. But would I be kind to him? Would I be like empathetic towards him if he dropped something on the ground? Would I help him pick it up?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Like I would be, would I open the door for him? Yes. Would I say, hi, oh, have a good day? Like, yes, I would do those things as being, because I consider myself a kind person. Like I like to lead with kindness. Now that was not always true of me. If anybody knows me on here, okay, that's fine. But here's what's interesting. I was much more of a bitch when I was a Christian.
Yeah, no, same. Because I feel like Christians will be like bitchy and will do things like underhandedly and try to pass it off as like doing something good. You know what I mean? I've seen a lot of that in the church of like, oh, I'm going to do you this favor, but really at the end of the day, it's literally a favor for myself.
Yeah. I don't get that. I don't know. But yeah, I totally lost my train of thought while we were just being honest. To me. Yeah. I'm like, would you want to chant? I think that was the only thing. Would you want to chant if you're in a car wreck and you didn't have a chance?
I've heard of like people passing away and like they'll say, oh, I saw them at church on Sunday and they gave their life to God. And so he had to take them out of this world before they did anything to mess up their salvation.
No,
I'm serious. Like people in the Pentecostal church will say that like I've heard that said more than a couple times.
No.
Yeah. Like God had to take him out of this world so young because they knew when he got older, he was going to do all this sin and lose his salvation.
If hypothetically you truly believe that, if you truly believe that was true, that you served a God that would kill someone at 23 to keep them from sinning again.
Yeah.
If you truly believe that's what happened, why are you a part of it? Why wouldn't you say, give me hell?
Yeah.
Why?
That's so weird.
Right?
Yeah, it's so weird. I feel like, and I used to think that was like, yeah, it's good that, he died young. That way he won't have a chance to sin. But looking back, I'm like, girl, what? What are you talking about?
Hello.
Seriously, right? Yeah. It's like delusional. No.
All right. On that nonsense.
I know. We're going to call it.
We should go. We gotta go.
Yeah. Thank you guys for listening.
We'll.
We would. Are we gonna? No, we don't want to hear your comments.
That's fine.
Keep them to yourself.
Just cares. Bring
them
the hate.
Please put them on so that we can read them and laugh at you.
I mean, hello. If they keep commenting mean comments, we're gonna have such a great mean comments episode.
That's true.
We'll screenshot it. It'll be so good.
Yeah. Maybe we'll do like an actual video of us reading the comments.
Oh my God.
Get our real reactions.
Oh my God.
That'd be so funny.
That would be funny. Plus, I mean, comments are comments. It still boosts us in the algorithm.
That's true. It's just interesting that someone disagrees with us so much and yet they will listen to like a majority. Because they listen to a lot. So they listen to a majority of what we have to say, but disagree so hard. Like if I wouldn't go searching for a Christian channel because I'm not going to agree with what they have to say. I'm also not going to comment on their videos of like, you're going to hell. Like okay. Do you not listen to what I'm saying here?
Literally, the cover thumbnail was the pride flag, and it had huge ass words that said "coming out."
Yeah,
and then it said LGBTQ in the description.
Yeah,
like why are you?
So it's like this is obviously not a place for you. This is not a place for you. But hey, maybe they'll listen and have a change of heart. I doubt it, but it's possible.
I mean, you're welcome here if you disagree. A view is a view.
I know. Everybody is welcome here. This is a safe-ish space.
Safe-ish.
Because you will get called out.
Yes. All right. On that note, for real, we out.
All right. Peace out, guys. See you next week.